think about schools, think about what schools look like when answers are in abundance. We are looking at maybe year 2025. 25 years already have passed from the century, and then we are thinking of things that we are trying to talk about. I'm going to talk about last competitive advantage, which is about teaching humans to think. And why so it is important, that's going to be my focus. So as I said, it's already 2026, 25 years have passed, and we are saying, think about this. What would schools look like if there are answers in abundance? Every child knowing the answer and doing things. Today answers are in abundance because earlier knowledge was in libraries, in books with scholars, and you have to struggle, you have to find out. Today answers are in abundance before a question is also formed. Before even the question is formed. It is interesting that even if half-baked question is given, you get answers and you might get a suggestion which might say that is your question around this. When water is scarce, we use it differently. But when water is in abundance, we don't value it. Similar things are happening to our answers. They are in abundance. And we're looking at schools little differently. So first time in the history, question is not what do you know, how do you know. The question is about how often do you sublease your thinking. Think about it from this perspective. When was it last that you impulsively gave tasks to ChatGPT, OpenAI, or Claude, or any other device without even blinking? Did you use your brain muscles? Did you use your brain to think about it? And that's what I'm going to talk about. What should schools look like for future of tomorrow? Let me share something previous. Something about my journey. I'm Shekhar, I'm from the city. It was in 1999 that in slums of the city, I was into an insurance company at that time, deputed to an NGO. There was this child in slums, and my focus was, as part of my MIT research, that can we bring all children to school? I asked this slum dweller, why don't you come to school? And he just asked me this basic question, why? And I, with all my gyan of assessment, reading and writing, was trying to explain him that what schools would teach him. He whistled in a particular manner. I would call it a different frequency because I claimed to know some physics. And from nowhere came pigeons, white pigeons. He asked me to hold one here. From this distance, pigeons stink. It was very difficult. And very confidently, in maybe multiple ways, in a way in which it was surprising for me, he talked about white pigeon, what they eat, how he trains them, how they carry messages, and what not. It was a almost monologue for good 5 minutes, and I was constantly checking myself. I could write pigeon in 7 languages and describe them in 5 different languages. Is this learning? Is this reading? Is this writing? That journey got me to this understanding. What is unconscious competence and what is conscious competence? My idea of reading, writing, assessment changed that day drastically. And that got me to full-time schooling. And that's where I'm going to talk about honor code, 25 years now. So this July, as we're talking, Princeton University removed this honor code. And I'll go back to my question earlier, how often do we sublease our thinking? Honor code was written in 1893, where Princeton University felt that our exams are treating students with respect. If you treat them honorably, they'll become honorable citizens. Idea was, when students entered the classroom, proctors would leave, supervisors would leave, and there would be just a note which would say that I have not cheated, I have not taken any help, I have not seen anybody giving help or taking help. This honor code lasted 133 years. This honor code lasted 2 world wars, 2 pandemics, and multiple social upheavals, but could not last maybe 5-10 years when we have seen multiple things changing things. This invisible bell along the path, what is it talking about? 40% of engineering students, 30% of students from other fields reported, accepted that they were cheating. Honor code was withdrawn because of that. And only 0.04% people had courage to talk about, I saw somebody cheating, because they were afraid of backlash, they were afraid of social media, they were afraid of maybe getting bullied by their peers. Again, think about it. Are we looking at exams? Are we looking at degrees? Are we looking at things that we want to get into? Or we are looking at this topic, which is last competitive advantage, teaching humans to think. If we keep subleasing our task, if we keep asking somebody else to do it, what are we learning? And that's going to be maybe the next part that I'm going to talk about. Intelligence is not a tool of a different kind. We are looking at it how humans think, and we spend endless years in defining what is human, what is thinking, and what is human flourishing. We are saying that because we are wise men and we believe, and this is very important, humans are intelligent to the extent that actions can be expected to achieve our objective. This is how we decoded it. If I wanted to clap, if I wanted to snap, if I wanted to clap, if I wanted to add 2 plus 2, I could do that. That was my objective. And a journey to convert this into machine was something which helped us how mind works. So we started talking about it a little differently. The Claude that we use, AI is a new, Claude Shannon, the Claude platform that we use. In 1956, he created the first code. And we started our journey with calculators. We started our journey with simple, basic things which talked about how, if I know brain works, can I make machines intelligent? If my objective was to look at machine, if this is my objective, input, if machine is able to give output, that is what we were doing. And today, we are overtly relying on this machine learning to give me answers, to help me and claim that I know. There is information overflow, but there's hardly any knowledge. What is happening because of this? When we look at it in terms of, are we looking at humans optimizing their brain? Are we looking at things that are happening around? Or are we looking at things which will kind of make us rely on tools? When they become better and better, what will we be doing? Here is a model that we talk about. Brain as muscle. We all know neuroplasticity. If we keep using our brain, we'll become better and better and better. If we don't use it, we'll become a little maybe fatigued, maybe lethargic, will not know how things are happening. And that's what is exactly happening. And that's the topic today I'm trying to say. What should schools be doing so that we get into this hope and inspiration? That it's not about honor code. It's not about anywhere saying that, oh, we'll teach OpenAI to everyone. It's more about, are we teaching humans to think? Are we asking humans to use their brain? Are we looking at what school should be doing? Imagine school where children come with bags, books, and multiple things, including devices. You see records, you see things, and you are seeing that we are just preparing them for information, for exam, because that's how the most model look. We are saying schools must evolve because we are not saying schools have failed. Schools never fail. It's just the pace of change was not kept. And this is the time in 2025 and for 22nd century. 25 years are over already from this. That's how exactly 15th century prepared for 16th, 16th prepared for 17th, and 19th prepared for 20th. That's how Sumerians thought of night sky, and that's how maybe world history was written. So think about this. If schools have to be reconsidered, re-looked into, if knowledge is available, if information is available instantly, what will schools do? What will they teach? How will they look like? And here is the model that I talk about. We talk about this fundamental shift. Fundamental shift was for employment. Our schools were meant for this. Classrooms were meant for that employment, industrial age revolution. Then we started talking about recently in terms of NEP about competencies. But when we are talking about competencies, we're already lagging behind because AI tools have taken on over us. And we're looking at how children are using it, thinking that they know. And schools aren't changing the way of teaching and progressing. And that's where the new model comes in. what we are saying about this, schools don't have a learning problem. They have a problem where it's about their thinking, because there is no friction in learning. Learning is so effortless, as I said, it's just a click of a button. But if you think of lifting weights, if you think of running, if you think of marathon, if you think of achieving any other task, you will realize how much effort it requires. But today, if I don't do any complex thing, if I talk about how a space shuttle takes off, it will give me something. I might rattle something in front of you, but does it really mean? Do I really know? Because there isn't a Google map that says take a left turn and you will be on Mars. So what we are saying from this is, can we have a model which is help us understand the wisdom for human flourishing? However better the tools around us get, however better, however polished, however faster tools around us get better, but we as humans continue and must follow thinking. And that's the role that we want schools to get into. So we are saying this 10 pillar model, which is century agnostic. It doesn't matter whether you are in 7th century or 8th century or 21st century or 22nd century. We're talking about this 10th century model where age after answers. If all answers are available, what should we be doing in schools? What should we be doing in classrooms? What should we be asking children to learn? And what are we preparing them for future? So here are things that we talk about. So this 10 pillar model talks about part 1 is thinking. Are we asking children to think? We are saying first part is about cognitive flexibility, known to everyone, maybe schools run on that. Second part is metacognition, thinking about own thinking. Am I aware of what I am doing? And third part is system thinking. Maybe we talk about sustainable development goal, we talk about plastic, we talk about floods, but there is no connection with textbooks and curriculum that they are learning right now. And these three things, the thinking curriculum makes it important for us to know how are we shifting, how are we learning, what are we doing in different areas that will make us understand when thinking becomes connected. That's part 1. Part 2 is about explore. When calculators came in, schools opposed them. When internet came in, schools opposed them. When AI came in, I'm not opposing AI. I'm saying, can we have co-exploration where it helps us get information, it helps us refine our thought process, but ensure that we question everything. It is not responsible if Claude or OpenAI or ChatGPT say answers may be wrong, please verify. It is my responsibility to apply thinking, to ask questions, to become a better person. So we are saying AI co-exploration with de-siloed curriculum. History, geography, economics, accounts, math, science, arts. Can this be integrated? It's high time because real world is not siloed. Real world is not this is a math street or this is geography street. Real world is little different. And de-siloed curriculum is the need, where we need to understand drought today, floods tomorrow, climate change, wars, how will that impact? And that's part of system thinking that became the first part. And continuous learning. Being in the industrial age, it was important. I got my degree, I got my medal, I got my job, and I'm happy. But the generation next need to continuously learn. In fact, there are countries which offer up to 38 credentials every couple of years where students can learn. It starts with first aid, moves to agriculture, moves to language learning, moves to foreign language learning, and so on and so forth. You keep constantly upgrading your skill set, and that's what we are saying in continuous learning. Third part is what I'm saying, where we talk about biometric feedback. And we heard in first two conversation today, when we talked about fear, when we talked about learning, when we talked about 5I model, what is this biometric feedback that I'm talking about? Being aware of self, how do I learn? What are my stressors? What is the best way to learn things? How will I improve? How will I collaborate? How will I get into a process which is better? That's biometric feedback. Immersive simulation, it's very explanatory, I don't talk about it, but ethical literacy. How do I use, when do I use, and what do I use it for? If I'm aware of how brain works, my importance, my understanding of transferring it to another machine is not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, am I flourishing? And that's the most important aspect of decision making, ethical. Is this ethical? Are we using earth as a common property for all creatures? Or or am I using it for my own benefit? That's the part that we are talking about. Again, interpersonal nuances, schools are doing a good job about those aspects. I'm not going to talk about that part. So when we look at century agnostic learner, what does this mean? Irrespective of generation, irrespective of century, what are 10 skills because of these pillars? And that's what I recommend these days to every school, that follow this, bring this in. We don't need maybe AI tools or devices or edtech. We need children who are thinking, who are using their brains, who are applying their learning in daily life, in classrooms. So these are points that we talk about: thinking flexibility, thinking about thinking, seeing systems, and I'm not very sure if you've heard this term about singularity. In 2005, it was predicted that by 2045, we will achieve singularity. And last week, Sam Altman, the owner or the founder of OpenAI, said singularity is already here. It may be in some area, it may not be in some areas. Will it be in 2045 or will it be in 2027? That's not a question. Question is about this. When biological and non-biological intelligence becomes together, what are we going to do? Are we going to look at schools in the same manner? Are we going to look at learning in the similar manner? And that's where it is important for us to know how do we make humans, or how do we teach humans to use their brains, teaching humans to think. That's what we are going to talk about. Think of a school where children are not carrying books, they're not carrying bags, they're not carrying devices, they're not carrying report cards, but they are carrying curiosity, wonder, questions, and possibilities. These are things that if come to school, that if come to classrooms, that if they come under the 10 pillar parameters, we'll start looking at schools differently, we'll start looking at things differently. And then we'll have school curriculum when we talk about de-siloed or subject-less or maybe subject-agnostic curriculum. We are saying they learn how to think, how to reason, how to imagine, how to listen, and how to disagree with respect. That's very, very important. How to look at, maybe there are other 2 points also. Recognize misinformation, detect bias. How do I go beyond that? Is my belief, is my answer, is my data, is the tool, that information I get is the only information, or I should be looking at it a little differently? So carrying school bag, going to school, having periods, maybe that was good for a century, that required employment and skills. But when we have AI flourishing, we want human brains to flourish. We want wiser people, wiser students. And these are changes that I recommend in my work to schools. Can we ask students to bring these 4 days, 4 things every day? Curiosity, wonder, questions, and possibilities. Then I look at maths a little differently. Then I look at science a little differently. And that was the point that even Mrs. Samir Shah mentioned about voices. How do you recognize this? How do you get into this idea that I need to bring in a change, I need to get into this? So if I have to say this, next please. If singularity is near, would we like to answer our life like this, that we build better systems, better machines, smarter machines? Or we would like to say, next, we want generation where we have thinkers, because it is not because they know more, because that's important, that humanity becomes wiser. They will not worry about singularity, they will not worry about biological or non-biological brain, they'll worry about, or they'll think about what should grow beyond. And that's what we are saying. School should focus on how do you teach thinking, and that's the last advantage in the world where singularity is there. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.